Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on how the DA is trying to get some heat and attention off of their ministers and what is happening in those ministries by releasing a press statement on Dr. Pieter Groenewald and the Department of Correctional Services, trying to, make a smear campaign out of this. And the only thing that pops into my mind is those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. It's truly that simple. Because if you want to really compare what is happening in the GNU in the various ministries, you will find that Dr. Pieter Groenewald is arguably the best performing minister out of every single minister. And arguably, the DA is some of the worst performing ministries, specifically the Department of Agriculture. So we are going to delve a little bit into this. And first, what I want to focus on, though, is just the successes of Dr. Groenewald in the Department of Correctional Services. Before I show it to you, though, please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to smash that like button, share this video far and wide. All of those things are free. So subscribe, smash the like button, and share this video far and wide. All right, let's go and have a look at the successes of Minister Groenewald in the Department of Correctional Services. All right, so this is a summary of Pieter Groenewald's key successes as Minister of Correctional Services since July 2024, when he was sworn in to be the minister. I've double-checked and verified these, and I asked Grok to compile it. The first one is anti-corruption and accountability. He's finalized 266 of 312 misconduct cases, with 30 officials found guilty. Over 2,388 officials faced disciplinary processes, with more than 2,100 finalized, conducted 51 integrity workshops and enhanced whistleblowing, achieved 100% response rate to parliamentary questions for 2 years running. Secondly, security improvements. Dramatically increased raids from 466 to 1,406. Confiscating over 37,500 cell phones and 320 kilograms of drugs and thousands of weapons contraband. And he's also reduced escapes and strengthened operations against smuggling. For example, successful Operation Vala with no escapees. And then if you go on to cost savings and self-sufficiency, this is where things get serious, because this is where taxpayers actually benefit. Rolled out prison bakeries, now 12 nationwide, saving 77 million rand on bread in the 25-26 financial year. So taxpayers saved 77 million rand thanks to Dr. Pieter Groenewald in one financial year, right? Generated 125 plus million in savings via inmate produced agricultural commodities. Overall reforms reportedly saved 450 million rand. Pushed inmate labor for food, clothing and furniture production to reduce taxpayer burden. The target is 1 billion annual savings. Think about that for a second. This one minister from the Freedom Front Plus is doing a better job than all of the other DA ministers combined. But yet they've got a lot to say, and we'll get into what they are saying. Rehabilitation and education, maintained high matric pass rates in correctional schools, 94.4% in 2025. Staff morale and recognition. I don't personally care about the inmates. They are there because they did something wrong. And the handful of people that are actually innocent, I'm really sorry for you, but I don't care about them getting education and things like this. But I tip my hat to Dr. Pieter Groenewald that's implementing this. Alright, so just a quick recap. The DA has got a problem and gave a press statement on correctional services, and yet they have saved taxpayers 450 million rand with cost-cutting techniques. And then 150 million of that is from the minister himself saying, let's bake our own bread and plant our own vegetables and using that. And then that saved taxpayers about 150 million rand. Then it's also the, 2,400 officials that went through disciplinary processes. That's never seen that before. We've got the 400 initial raids that jumped to 1,400 raids of prisoners and their cells. We've got 37,000 cell phones that were confiscated from inmates, 320 kilograms worth of drugs. Then we've also have this new pilot project by the minister for signal jammers so that there's no cell phone signal in and out of jail so that criminals can't pull a Thabo Bester. And all of that is ignored because the DA found something that actually was a process that happened before Dr. Pieter Groenewald was elected as the minister or sworn in as the Minister of Correctional Services. Let's have a look at what they've got to say. All right, DA demands full investigation into Correctional Services gravy scandal, released on the 15th of May by the DA. The DA calls for an urgent, independent forensic investigation into the Department of Correctional Services after it emerged that the department paid as much as 726 Rand for a single litre of cooking oil and 3,735 Rand for gravy powder under the watch of Minister Pieter Groenewald of the Freedom Front Plus. Okay. So I see what you are doing here. Like you are saying under the watch of Minister Pieter Groenewald. What are you leaving out though? We'll get to that. Prices have since been renegotiated down to 29 Rand and 920 Rand respectively. When did this happen? Before this statement or because of this statement? We'll also get to that one. At a meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, the DCS was forced to admit that it had entered into contracts with 115 service providers containing exorbitant and wholly irrational pricing. According to the DCS's own presentation, the original price for cooking oil in some regions was 726 Rand, while the renegotiated price now stands at 29 Rand, a 2,400% difference. Because of who? Why don't you mention it? This is like a press statement while they actually like patting Dr. Pieter Groenewald on the back. Like it just doesn't make sense. Similarly, gravy powder that cost the state 3,735 Rand will now be procured for just 920 Rand in the Gauteng region. This is not a mistake or an administrative oversight. It is a looting of the Department of Correctional Services budget by corrupt officials colluding with shadowy businesses under Minister Groenewald's watch. Once again, you see how they doing this? Are they playing this little game? The only thing that has changed since the renegotiation is the price. The gravy and cooking oil are exactly the same products. The difference between the old and the new price represents pure profit siphoned from a department that can barely keep its prisons safe or its inmates fed. Oh, nice one. Okay, we'll get to your department shortly. Now it goes on into a little bit details as to what exactly the products were, but you get the idea. All right. So I'm a little bit confused. The DA comes out with a press statement on something that was resolved by the minister and his department before they actually came out with the press statement. Now, I agree that paying that amount of money for things that is a lot cheaper isn't right. However, if you actually go and look at when this tender was advertised and when it was finalized, this happened in February 2024. The election was in June 2024. So Dr. Pieter Groenewald wasn't the minister when this tender was advertised and when the negotiations started happening. So you are trying to bring in Dr. Pieter Groenewald when he actually had nothing to do with this process. So you are dropping his name because you are trying to throw shit and see what sticks. And I'll get to you guys because there's a lot of shit that sticks with you. Secondly, you are talking about how this was corrected, but you try and insinuate through this press statement that it was you guys that made this happen. When in actual fact, these prices were corrected as soon as Minister Pieter Groenewald became aware of it. Now, just for context, every single year, the Department of Correctional Services get between 150 to 240 tenders. Now, do you expect the minister, even before he was a minister, to firstly be aware of this tender and to then comb through every single tender document when there are staff members that are supposed to do this job and bring the final report to the minister to read. So this is clearly a case of the DA trying to get attention away from them and trying to put it on somebody else that they can blame. And instead of blaming an ANC minister or blaming a PA minister, they look at who the competition is in the upcoming 2026 elections, and they try and make this Pieter Groenewald and Freedom Front Plus situation. When in actual fact, when you look at the achievements from the Department of Correctional Services under the watch of Minister Groenewald, I think it's clear to see that he is one, if not the best performing minister in the GNU. But with that being said, let's just quickly do just a memory rundown of DA ministers. Okay, so we've got John Steenhuisen with the Department of Agriculture that has watched over the worst case of foot and mouth disease outbreak in the history of this country, going so far as to go against farmers and saying that we will not let the farmers do the vaccinations themselves, we will do state control. Strange, right? Because isn't this the same person that was the leader of the party before the election that said we should get rid of state control and do everything in our power to get rid of state control? You know, isn't that what was promised? But then again, despite all the private things like the company credit card, like his own personal finances, being in the White House and saying the nonsense that he said over there, despite all of those things, the DA still thought that this was a clever idea to come and attack the best performing minister in the GNU. Then, we can go over to Saviwe Garube, that is the Minister of Basic Education. Remember, the DA promised that we will fight Bella. And now this minister is not only implementing Bella, but she is rewriting history, because there are now new history curriculum that is being introduced where Jan van Riebeeck and a bunch of other people are just getting the cut, This is under the DA's watch. And then we've got Dean McPherson. Null does not mean zero. Null compensation does not mean zero. And then the same guy that took his boyfriend on a trip to Brazil on taxpayers' dime. And then, of course, we've got Solly Malatsi, who's the Minister of Communication and Digital Technologies, that submitted an AI policy to prevent AI from doing everything and creeping into government. And then the policy itself a lot of it was formulated by AI. So much so that the minister had to withdraw the policy. So these are just some of the successes of DA ministers in the GNU. And then the DA thinks it's a good idea to come and attack a minister that is actually doing the job that they promised their voters that they were going to do. Yeah, that's not a really good idea. So I think the DA should focus on their ministries and their dumpster fires that's currently going on, and perhaps leave the Freedom Front Plus alone, and leave the one Freedom Front Plus minister alone in the executive that is actually the best performing minister out of all of them, ANC, PA, DA, and everybody in the GNU. But you see, there's a bigger issue here. The issue is that the DA knows that they are bleeding support, specifically from Afrikaners and then Mengels families, Afrikaans and English mixed, the people that always just voted DA because, hey, everybody else is voting for the DA. And that's changing because Afrikaners are finding a home with the Freedom Front Plus again under Dr. Corné Mulder, who is the new leader. And then your English Afrikaans families are saying, but we don't agree with the policies, especially the woke leftist policies that the DA is bringing to the fore. And then, of course, you've got the PA that is a massive danger for the DA and their colored communities, and for the colored vote specifically. So they are full-on panic stations. So much so that somebody thought in the DA head office that bringing that press statement was a good idea, because that press statement is not a victory for the DA, and it's also not an insult for Pieter Groenewald, because he wasn't the minister when that tender was agreed to. So, and then it was corrected by the minister before the DA actually stepped in. So it doesn't even make sense. So, like I said, this is clear panic by the Democratic Alliance for the upcoming 2026 municipal elections, because the Freedom Front Plus is going to grow massively, the PA is going to grow massively, and the DA is going to not grow at all. But they're going to try and fool you and say, only we can fix this, only we can fix that. Here's my suggestion, and it's just my suggestion. If you are a Freedom Front Plus supporter, vote for the Freedom Front Plus on the ward ballot and also on the PR ballot. So you're going to get 2 ballots this election. Who you want to be your ward councillor and who you would want to run the metro, right? 2 ballots. So if you are a Freedom Front Plus supporter, both ballots, Freedom Front Plus. If you love your DA ward councillor and you have voted for the DA for a long time and you still feel like some connection with your councillor, then by all means vote for that DA councillor. But on your second ballot, take out an insurance policy against these woke leftist policies that the DA is proposing. Look at the Western Cape. Look at the rates and tax saga where they connected how much you must pay to the value of your property rather than your consumption level. You know, to take out an insurance policy against those bad policies from coming into your metro when the DA might get into government over there. So it's very important to take note of that. Take out an insurance policy against the DA. If you like your DA councillor and you want them to remain the DA councillor, vote for them. On the second ballot, who you want to govern the metro, the insurance policy there, of course, is the Freedom Front Plus. And I hope that this makes sense to everybody, because for the longest period of time, the overwhelming majority of people that actually vote for the DA because, hey, they're not the ANC and they are big enough to make a difference. In one election cycle, the Freedom Front Plus can go from a 1-2% party to a 10 to 12% party. All of this can change if people just go, we had enough of communist, socialist, and liberal policies, and we want to, vote for conservative policies, because conservatism is actually just looking after the family, looking after your rights, looking after your faith, making sure that minorities are protected, not disadvantaging the majority, but just ensuring that minorities are looked after. 85% of this country are Christian, which means that 85% of this country are conservative, at least on 1 or 2 aspects. But if your family is really important to you, if your freedoms are really important to you, if your faith is really important to you, then I highly recommend that you consider voting for the Freedom Front Plus. I will pin a link below where you can actually sign up to become a Freedom Front Plus member, or where you can just read more information with regards to the Freedom Front Plus. So I'd highly recommend that you consider clicking on that link below and joining the Freedom Front Plus, because the Freedom Front Plus truly is the actual alternative where you vote based on your values and principles, not because you want to be the biggest party and all you want is service delivery, because there's a lot more to governing than just service delivery. There's values and principles and how we implement these things. And the best vehicle for that, in my humble opinion, is the Freedom Front Plus. But that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash the like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. However, if you'd like to contribute financially to this channel, that'll be greatly appreciated. And you can do it by giving a super thanks. Look for the $ below, or become a member by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.